Good morning everybody and welcome to our MAHER make along. I'm hoping that as you watch the video you'll be able to join in and make this roulade or a Swiss roll. One of the trickier parts is perhaps what you're going to bake it in, and I actually do not have the right sized baking tray. I've got lots at school, but I'm not at school. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to make the right size baking tray just from a regular piece of greaseproof paper. Now here in Austria these are often sold already cut to size, and what I've done is taken one of those pieces and I've marked within it, just with light pencil marks, a rectangle that's approximately 30 centimetres by 25 centimetres, and you might be able to see that I've folded up the edges. Okay, now what I want to do is try and make this into a tray that's going to contain my mixture. So with my greaseproof and using a pair of scissors and a staple, what I am going to do is I'm going to cut down from the corner of the paper into where the join meets, where the lines meet. I'm bisecting the line in each corner. Okay, so now my paper looks like this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and create myself a baking tray, and I've discovered that if you line up the folds, then you make a perfect right angle. So before you join in the make along, you can make yourself a baking tray if you haven't got one. Now of course if you've got a baking tray, a shallow baking tray that's about that size, then you're well away already, aren't you? But I haven't. So I'm just going to use my bit of baking paper and I'm going to persuade it to be the right shape. Okay, so there's our baking tray. You will need something to sit it on, ready to go. Okay, so let's get going with this roulade. The first thing we're going to do is set the oven. Choices here between using the fan and leaving it still. If you're going to put the fan on, then you need the temperature to be about 180 degrees in the oven, and if you have a still oven, 190. Okay, so we're going to crack on with the cake now, and this cake starts with the eggs and the sugar, and these are 3 whole eggs, they're in, and to these 3 eggs we're going to add our sugar, and I've weighed that out already, so that's our 75 grams of fine crystal sugar. In it goes. I'm also going to add at this point a little drop of vanilla. If you're using a powdered spice, don't put it in yet, put that in with the flour instead. So about ½ a teaspoon of vanilla. It's just quite nice to take the eggy taste away. And then this bit's going to get noisy, because what we're going to do is go in with our whisk and we're going to whisk these together for about 4 or 5 minutes. Let's get going. Okay, I think we're there. We've got a lovely thick white mousse. We're going to add in the flour now, and as I mentioned before, I'm going to make mine chocolate flavour. So what I've done is I've removed 1 tablespoon of the flour and I've replaced it with 1 tablespoon of cocoa powder. Now cocoa powder is notoriously lumpy. Definitely don't want to be putting this straight into our mixture, so I'm going to sieve it. So a first sift onto the paper. And once you've got your lovely mixture on your paper. Set your sieve onto your bowl, just making sure it doesn't touch your mixture, and then use the paper and pick it up and put it into your sieve. And then we're just going to do a second sifting. Should go straight through the sieve this time because it's been through once already. And then using a metal spoon, we're going to fold the mixture together. Now this means that we're going to lift the flour through the mixture, and we're going to try and maintain as much of that volume as we can. So what I tend to do is go around the outside and then fold over. Around the outside and fold over. And as I go to the bottom, I'm pulling out the flour. Okay, I think I'm done. I've gone looking for lumps of flour, especially at the bottom, and I think it's all incorporated. Just stop as soon as you think you're there, because the more you mix, the more air you'll lose and the flatter your cake will be. So that's our mixture done. And now I'm just going to prepare our homemade baking tray. If you've got a baking tray that's the right size, I would still line it. Just snip into the edges to make sure it lays really flat. But here we are with our homemade baking tray. I'm just going to spray the bottom a little bit. And as I say, I've got this spray. If you've got some baking spray, you can use it. Just a light film and a sprinkle of sugar. And that will just help it release from the paper when it's cooked. And in it goes, just putting it all down into the middle of your homemade baking tray. And then just using the spatula, very gently spread it out into the bottom of your baking tray. If I get it right into the corners, just being really careful not to knock out that precious air. As I said, it is our only raising agent, so if that goes, you'll make a pancake. These cook really quickly. They're full of air and they've got no fat in them, so in your preheated oven for about 10 minutes. So our cake's in the oven. While we're waiting, we're just going to prepare ourselves a piece of greaseproof paper to receive the cake onto, and then more sugar. You're just going to sprinkle the surface of your greaseproof paper with sugar. No oil this time, just sugar, because this will then remain in part on top of your cake. Okay, so hopefully by now you've got your greaseproof paper ready to go, and we're going to take the cake out of the oven. I'm just making sure that it's firm to the touch, and it is, so I'm pretty convinced that this is ready, and I'm quite pleased with my homemade baking tray. It seems to have worked quite well. What I'm going to do now is just tear out the staple, and I'm going to flatten out the baking paper just a little bit. And then the scary bit maybe is just to pick up your cake by the paper and lay it face down onto your second sheet, just as carefully as you can, and then hopefully you can magically roll back the paper. I might just go from the other end of this last bit. I don't want to break the edges. What we want to do is try and show our cake what kind of shape we want it to be. So while it's warm, I'm going to fold over the edge and I'm going to roll my cake up. Don't worry if it cracks. Honestly, it's all part of the charm of a roulade. But if you can roll it gently, and I usually just hold it in place for about 20 seconds or so, just until it's got the hang of what shape you want it to be. And then I'm going to put it on my cooling rack. So now that's had about 20 seconds, I'm just going to let it naturally just unfurl a little bit, and maybe just leave the end slightly curled over. Don't force the cake back again. And then we're going to leave that to cool. So we're going to whip up the cream and pop in the raspberries and get rolling. So you want to whip up the cream until it forms reasonably firm peaks. It's got to be whipped up strong enough to be able to hold the weight of the cake. I use a fairly high-sided bowl just so I don't splash everywhere, and just go slowly to start off with. Once it's starting to thicken a little bit, you can afford to turn it up. Okay, so our cream is ready. Okay, so this is the fun bit. We're going to put our cream into the middle of our cake. I'm actually going to reserve a little bit just for a decoration on the top. You're going to spread the cream out, and I would just keep it about 1/2 centimetre or so away from the edge, just so that when you roll it up there's some room for it to squeeze out a little bit down the side. And then what I've done with the raspberries, after I gave them a very quick wash, is I've just put 5 to one side. I've chosen 5 nice equal ones that I'm going to use on my decoration, and I've just got the rest. Now you can just drop them on whole. I'm just going to open mine up a little bit to dot round, just to make them go a little tiny bit further. Okay, so we've spread our raspberries across our roulade, and now we're going to do the roly-poly bit. So I am going to roll from the same end I started with. First roll needs to be reasonably tight, just to get the spiral going. So fold again, press down quite firmly, and then after that you can either use your hands or you can use the paper to roll, and all you're going to do is just roll it over. And I'll use my hands, seems to be a little easier on this one. And you're just going to keep rolling and keep rolling and keep rolling, and you'll see that the cream is starting to get pushed out the end. Just going to see if I can lift my Swiss roll back a bit, and then I'm going to roll it and I'm going to sit it on its join, and there you can see our lovely roly-poly roulade. I've got a reusable piping bag here, and I've just put the star nozzle on the bottom. I think when you're trying to get the cream into the piping bag, it's well worth folding the bag down so that you're putting the cream right down into the bottom. So grab your piping bag where the cream is and twist, and just keep twisting the top of the piping bag, and that should force the cream out the bottom. There it goes. So I'm going to go for a nice kind of star-shaped spiral and decorate with my 5 raspberries. Okay, and then on with the raspberries. Just try and spread them out evenly, anything you like. Once you've decorated your cake, then you can move it onto your serving plate and then give it a final dusting of some icing sugar. We call this culinary snow in the classroom, and we find that it covers a multitude of sins. So if you've got a bit of a cracked roulade like I have here, give it a liberal dusting and nobody will notice. Voila! Chocolate and raspberry roulade. Please consider donating to MAHER, our school's charity. The donations are really down at the moment because we're out of school, and they're desperate to support as many of the homeless as they can during these difficult times. We have given you the bank details on our newsletter, so please use those to make a donation, and I'll make sure they're on my blog too. Enjoy!